Good evening. The regular meeting of the Southern Shores Town Council for May the 3rd, 2016 is now in session. Before I ask you to join me in a pledge of allegiance, I want to explain the absence of two of our council members. Councilman Newberry had a urgent business matter which he had to attend to. Advised me of that, I think, last Friday or Saturday. And Councilman McDonald is in his son's wedding in Costa Rica, which I'm very happy for him, but he can't be here tonight. I'm sure they'll both be back for the next meeting. If you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now I'd ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Council, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, Council, which was the approval of the minutes of April the 5th, special meeting April the 5th, regular meeting, and April 19th budget retreat, and also the budget amendment number 4, revenue from sale of public works vehicle. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving ahead, staff reports. Finance Officer Bonnie. Bonnie Swain. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Before you, you have the quarterly reports for the third quarter of the fiscal year 2015 and 16. As you will see on the summary page, we are revenues over expenditures by $811,279.34. Before you, here are the the expenditures. Okay, you can see that the difference, the biggest difference between the current year-to-date total and the prior year-to-date total. The 1.2 million, most of that is due to the paying off the debt of the canal loan that we paid off last year. And also the significant, if you look at the year-to-dates there for the police department, the savings there, that also was paying off the leases on the vehicles. Those were paid off in full along with the canal loan. And for the fire department, the $50,000 less from this year to last year was the paying off of the 800 megahertz radios that we paid off last year. And then in the Public Works Department, the savings there from this year over last year was last year they bought a new tractor and did numerous buildings repairs to both the town hall and the police department last year. And on the revenues, you can see here that for the current year-to-date versus the prior year-to-date, that we have received more ad valorem and motor vehicle taxes to date this current year as compared to last year. Also, the growth in the shared revenues, which of course are the occupancy tax, the sales tax, and the land transfer. And also you'll notice a big jump in the utility franchise tax. This is increased due to a change in the formula on what can be taxed. So we saw a significant increase in that. And on the other revenues, what is included in that line is the Powell bill money, the grant revenues such as the Tall Pine Bridge, the school resource officer, the police grants for equipment, sand fencing, insurance payments that we did for the lightning strike that damaged our some of our equipment at the town hall and that sort of thing. So that is the revenues and expenses up to through the third quarter. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any.
No question.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie, appreciate it. Town Planner, Wes Haskett, we have a report from him, Peter, or not?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There you are.
Good job.
Sorry, Wes. How'd you get there so quick?
Snuck up here.
I was looking over there for you.
He was hiding underneath there.
Anyway, Wes, you're here. Thank
No
you.
worries. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I have a brief report for the month of April. There were 8 zoning permits issued, 32 building permits issued, and they consisted of 1 addition, 1 remodel, 3 repairs, 1 repair addition, 2 accessories, and 24 others. There are currently 17 single-family dwellings under construction in the town, and the total amount of fees collected in April was $4,660.85. With respect to the Town Planning Board, the May 16th board meeting will be the table review of a variance request seeking relief from side setback requirements at 64 Ocean Boulevard. That matter was tabled at the April meeting, so they'll be considering it then. Any questions?
Any questions, council?
No, I don't have any.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank y'all.
Sorry I missed you. Chief Cole? Good evening, Chief.
Mayor, members of council. First thing I'd like to do is go on record and thank Lieutenant Slagle for covering for me in my absence, and it was his first budget presentation. And with the help of YouTube, I saw that he did a very good job.
Yeah.
And John, I appreciate it. Thank you. Now for the police department report for April 2016. As you can see down at the bottom in the pie chart, we had 810 calls for service for that month, and that's about 74 less than we had last year for the same month. One of the breakdowns, the incidents, which are crimes, we had 19 of those reported, and as you can see, they're broke down. We had 6 criminal arrests, 2 for assault, 2 drug arrests. 1 was a DWI, 1 was traffic related. And the officers, out of 91 traffic stops, they handed out 28 written citations and another 51 warning citations. And we had 1 ordinance for parking in the right-of-way for April. Questions? Thank you.
No question.
No.
Thank you, David. Ed Limbacher, our fire chief. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Mayor, everybody. Before I get the report, would you like me to do the scholarship presentation first, or would you rather that afterwards?
That's your call, totally. Do your report.
Okay. You're the boss.
Do your report, and let's keep those people here in the room, because we never have a crowd this big.
Yeah, there's a lot of members here to support the
Right.
guys. So, for the month of April, the fire department responded to 33 calls, and it breaks down pretty simply. 1 cooking fire, 1 vehicle fire with entrapment, was an accident with entrapment also. 21 EMS calls, 1 power line down, 1 arcing or electrical equipment, 2 service calls, 3 public service, 1 dispatched en route, and 1 smoke or odor call. And this is actually 2 ahead from last year. Last year was 31, so. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. This year, tonight, I'd like to do a little something special. Each year, the Southern Shores Fire Department awards scholarships to deserving members. This year, the Relief Board has chosen firefighter Logan Sneese and junior firefighter Stephen Hines. Logan joined the department in October of 2013, and Stephen in May of 2015. During their service, the department has made, their service to the department, they have made themselves very valuable assets. Both of them put an enormous amount of time and effort into the department, whether it's an administrative task I asked them to do, or whether it's just plain old answering calls. During the summer, Logan manages a water sports business in Duck. He attended COA and is now completing his degree in UNC Wilmington in IT and network security. Stephen will be graduating First Flight High School this year. Plans intending at Tidewater College in the fall, pursuing a degree in fire science and technology. During the summer, Stephen will be working for OBX Mosquito Squad here on the beach. At this time, I'd like to ask the Relief Fund Board Treasurer and President, or Chairman, Joe Buckley and Lorelei Costa, and they can explain more about the process and why these gentlemen were chosen and how they all comes about. So Lorelei, Joe, if you come up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lorelei Costa, and I am the treasurer of the Local Relief Fund Board, which supports the Southern Shores Volunteer Fire Department. We are actually a separate entity from the fire department. We have our own board, we have our own accounts, we have our own source of funding. Our funding is actually entirely from the state, from the North Carolina Firemen's Association, and it's based on the number of volunteer members we have, as well as the insurance from our district. All of our funds are designated to benefit our volunteer firefighters. For example, our scholarships program, or through our health and wellness program, or in case of injury or illness, or any kind of financial need. All of our firefighters here in Southern Shores, as you know, are volunteers. So the Relief Fund is here to support and benefit them. I am very honored to present the two scholarships tonight to Stephen Hines and Logan Steese. Both of them have generously donated hundreds of hours to ensure the safety and well-being of our community. To qualify for these scholarships, our firefighters had to demonstrate longevity of service to the department, good academic standing, and they had to submit 3 letters of recommendation. So I would like to quote some of the words that were given in reference for them. They had to submit 1 letter of recommendation from an officer of the department. So one of our officers, Lieutenant Stallings, wrote this about Stephen. Mr. Hines and I recently responded to a possible structure fire in which he was courageous and showed great integrity. He will take his passion, drive, and skill set to great lengths to help his community, and I never met anyone else with such compassion. Our other scholarship this year is being presented to Logan Steese, who's not here right now. As Chief Limbacher said, he's a student at UNC Wilmington. I think he's taking finals this week. But whenever he's home for the weekends, and he'll be home this summer, you can guarantee he will respond to calls. Lieutenant Hale wrote a wonderful letter of recommendation for Logan, in which he wrote, Logan has proven himself to be a civic-minded leader, extraordinarily gifted in both classroom and real-world applications of knowledge and judgment, dependable, energetic, affable, and an overall solid person. He is mature beyond his years, and I cannot imagine a better candidate. At this time, I'd like to ask Stephen to come up, as well as Logan's father, who I think is here. Jim Steese is here to receive the presentation.
Not really.
And lastly, I just want to recognize the secretary of our local relief fund board is here today, and that's Pat Wilson.
I did speak with Logan. He's actually in finals. She's right. He is in finals this week. That's why his dad appeared. So I'd rather him get the good grades than come and get his money. He can get his money later.
Thank you. Congratulations to the recipients. Good presentation. This time I'll call on our town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Previous meeting, the council directed staff to come up with a plan to explore the possibility of the town adopting a historic landmark designation program as authorized by the state. The staff has met with interested owners of the town's historic flat-top cottages that remain, and a few other cottages as well that are not flat-top but may have historic significance. We did meet with a sampling of the owners. We also discussed the current tour that took place of the flat-top cottages. I also met with staff from Kill Devil Hills again concerning their adopted program, as well as commissioners from their historic commission for the town of Kill Devil Hills to discuss the ongoing program there. What I have included in your books is an actual plan. The first step would call for staff to actually notify every owner of record of the potential structures that could be part of this program, and ask would they be interested in the program. And of course that would be the first step on behalf of the council, to ask each individual record owner would they be interested, and if so, could they come in and talk to staff, and we could explain the program to them, as well as the incentives with the program. And as you recall, we reported before that statutes allow for a 50% abatement of property taxes of both county and town for the value of the land and the structure, if a property is included in the program and if the owners abide by the historic preservation standards of the program. It is a voluntary program. It is not like a historic district or an zoning overlay district. So the first step would be authorizing staff to contact the owners, and we propose a 3-month window, since a lot of these owners of the properties are not residents of the Southern Shores. They live in other places and come during the summertime. That would give them ample opportunity to make a decision, meet with us, and us make a report back to the council in August at the first meeting at that time. If the council chose to continue on from that point, if there was the council decided there was sufficient interest among property owners, the next step would be to consider adopting an ordinance that would designate an actual commission, historic commission of at least 3 residents of the town. Once the commission is formulated, there would need to be an inventory developed of the properties, prioritized with some of the properties at least that could go to Department of Cultural Resources and be reviewed. And if sampling of those were accepted or concurred with, by the Department of Cultural Resources, then council could entertain an actual ordinance that would start up the program by including these in the program. So we had envisioned that to occur throughout the fall, that startup adoption throughout the fall, and then the inventory and write-ups on the houses over the winter. So that's the proposal that staff makes to you. If the council was interested in doing that, we could start right away with the notifications and give owners a 3-month period of time to think about it, discuss with staff, and see if they actually are interested, and we could bring back a census to you the first meeting in August, if that's the pleasure of the council.
What's your pleasure, council?
Just a question. Did you say you had interviewed a couple of the owners?
Yes.
What was their response?
Well, obviously, the ones we did talk to were in favor of the program, and they came in immediately, and we had discussed with some of them before the actual tour, and they were well aware of the program, well aware of the Kill Devil Hills program, and they're very much interested in that. But again, that's only, at this point, only 3 or 4. So what we would propose, there are 34 flat tops remaining according to their census, and 3 other potentially historic properties that are not flat top in Southern Shores. So that's a total of 37 that could potentially be designated as historic landmarks in Southern Shores.
The 3, where are they? Do you know where they're located?
I only know where one of them's located. I don't know where the other 2 are. I've not studied the map or the addresses.
Where's the one? Do you know where the one is?
Yes, on Ocean Boulevard.
Are all, the majority are on Ocean Boulevard?
Well, a majority would be on the beach area. There's some back off of the, several blocks back off of Duck Road, and there are some that are scattered in the northern part of town as well. I don't have a map drawn out for them yet, but
I have no problem with proceeding with that step one for an inventory.
Authorize the town
Yeah,
staff to...
authorize the staff to do some more work on, work with the rest of the owners and see if they're really interested.
How do you think, what do you think of that, Chris?
I mean, I think at this point, it seemed like there was general interest amongst all of us to just see where it took us. So I don't see a problem continuing. We're not making a final decision at this point on whether we're going to do it or not, but we just
Right.
need to see if it's got legs and it's.
Well, I know there's a lot of interest in trying to preserve or protect the flat tops, because we do lose, an average of 2 to 3 a year sometimes,
we're losing about 2 a year for demolition.
so.
Peter, one question for you would be, when Ms. Guns came by, she had mentioned that it was a good deal of work for staff. So is that something that, as we're going into the next topic, which will be budget, do you feel like, should this be green-lighted in, I think it was August that we had talked, or August or September, do you feel like we've got enough to cover ourselves, at least in this inventory period?
I feel like the budget proposed today would cover the year. I think what we're planning on doing, and the owners that are interested in helping with this would certainly be amenable to being on appointed committees by the commission and volunteers and that sort of thing. It will become crucial when we do the write-ups for each individual property. As you yourself know, with Killover Hills, that's where the most amount of time is going to be to write up the individual properties, the architectural history for the state. At that point, if we would be seeking volunteer help to do that.
That'd be later in the project, wouldn't it?
Later in the process, yes, sir.
So we don't have to make a decision on that,
That's
that's
right.
fine.
I
I just
still
wanted to
feel
get a
like-
sense of the,
Yes.
Okay.
Still feel like we've got it covered in this year's budget so far.
All we have to do this evening is authorize town staff to notify by official letter each property owner of every known potential historic property. And I think we can do that. It's council's in consensus.
Yeah.
We need to have a motion to
Do we
do
need
that,
a
Peter.
motion
Are you
on that?
okay with us just agreeing?
Peter, do we need a motion on that? or
Yes,
Dan?
if you.
All right.
that would-
I'd make a motion that we authorize town staff to do what I just said a minute ago. Notify by official letter each property owner of record for every known potential historic property in the town. And go ahead and direct staff to do that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We've already had that discussion, I think. This time I'll open general public comment.
Oh, wait a minute, no, you got the budget
Well,
first.
I apologize. Presentation, I'm sorry. I got way ahead of myself. I do that occasionally.
Yeah.
It's an age thing. Presentation, filing of fiscal year 2016, 2017 proposed budget. And Sheila's given us a handout, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Peter.
Mayor, members of the council. I believe you have in your hands the filed proposed budget that was filed with the town clerk today. It will go on the website first thing tomorrow morning for the public, and it will be available for the public inspection for the next month. At the end of my short presentation tonight, I would ask the mayor if you would schedule the public hearing on this budget for your June regular meeting. This is the proposed budget. Of course, 2 weeks ago, the council reviewed the proposed draft budget. Tonight, I'm pleased to present to you, in accordance with the state's fiscal laws, a $5.7 million operating budget for the town of Southern Shores for fiscal year 2016-17. This does represent a reduction in the overall amount of the budget of $1,144,349. It calls for no tax rate increase. It calls for no transfer of unassigned fund balance to balance the budget. Few of the highlights: there is no expense for debt service included in the budget, and it continues funding for the town's capital improvement plan. is continues funding for potential survey of North and East Dogwood Trail in case that task force comes and asks the council for that, and the council concurs with that request. It also contains funding for remedial measures for flooding along NC Highway 12 at East Dogwood Trail in case the council authorizes the town to participate in remediation efforts with the Department of Transportation for that particular challenge. It also represents significant savings due to a new solid waste collection contract that will go into effect on July 1, and I'll be giving you more details on that during my report. The county the County Board of Commissioners did on Monday authorize termination of its agreement with Southern Shores, so we will be picking up a new carrier effective July 1 for trash collection. It does represent a significant direct appropriation to the Capital Reserve Fund for future capital needs in excess of the traditional monies that go in each that you've authorized each year for canal maintenance and channel maintenance. The budget also authorizes funding for continuation of the successful School Resource Officer Program for Kitty Hawk Elementary School, which of course is under the auspices of the Southern Shores Police Department. The SRO program is. It also funds our mutual aid efforts of the Southern Shores Police Department, participates with Kitty Hawk, Town of Kitty Hawk, Town of Duck, and State Highway Patrol now on the intersection during the seasonal traffic season in front of the town hall. And I'll get into a little bit more of that in my actual report tonight. It also funds continuing our successful Community Resource Officer Program during the summertime. And it also continues to fund the necessary repair and replacement of town-owned bulkheads throughout the town. This budget also proposes a direct contribution to the, as I mentioned before, to the Capital Reserve Fund, again, for the maintenance of the canals and the channel. And it also authorizes funding for stabilization of our beaches using monies that the town realizes from the occupancy tax from the Shoreline Commission, from the county. On the screen shows you a pie chart of the actual general fund revenues for the upcoming year. Highlighted on that, again, you can see on the right side, the ad valorem tax for Southern Shores, which is the property tax, is 51% is made up of 51% of the revenue pie chart. 1 penny of Southern Shores, 22 cents of tax rate makes up $128,539. So that 51% is made up of revenue from 22 cents of tax rate. You can see the next largest is the occupancy sales tax and land transfer piece of the pie, a little bit higher this year at 35%. That is the Southern Shores tourism dollars. Those are the distributed taxes that we realize from the formula. Not only occupancy tax, but sales tax on sales, Dare County-wide, and also land transfer taxes county-wide. So we do receive our distributed share of that, and that makes up, again, 35% of the town's budget. The other pieces of that pie show you the unrestricted government revenues, which are the typical franchise taxes, state franchise taxes, the telecommunication tax, ABC revenues, solid waste disposal tax, et cetera. The restricted intergovernment revenues make up 4%. The main part of that particular piece of the pie is the Powell bill funding. I did want to call your attention to that. In the budget this year is projected at $118,000. That goes into the general fund. Of course, we refund out for the street maintenance, but that particular money is used for street paving of public streets. Not sure what's going to happen with that during the legislative year. We're going to have to keep an eye on that as to how it actually ends up. It is no longer funded by the gas tax. is funded by direct appropriation into that fund by the General Assembly. The remaining pieces there, you see permits and fees and the other revenues, which are the town's property leases, et cetera. The next chart shows you the general fund expenditures. You can see by department, the police department at 29%, administrative department at 17%, which that increased slightly because there is a contingency amount in that this year to continue to pay the ongoing obligation for the Code-Right contract, and I'll explain that in just a second. Ocean Rescue at 3%, the contracted fire services at 8% of the budget. Sanitation is at 11%, and that shows significant savings this year, and I'll get into that in a minute again with the savings the town is realizing from its new solid waste collection contract. Public Works Department is 7%, and the next largest below the down to be 20% is the town's program for its streets, bridges, and canal infrastructures. To show you the summary lines, I believe in your packet is on page 12. You can see the ad valorem taxes have increased slightly from fiscal year 15-16. We're working off of the column on the right, which is the recommended, that is the proposed budget FY 15-17, and two columns back, FY 15-16 amended is what we judged the increase off of. The subtotal there shows you the actual increase, shows you the total of all the revenues of 5.7. The expenditures by a department, I will say, with the exception of the administration department, because of the contract obligation to finish paying the Code-Right contract in the next fiscal year, each department you'll see a slight drop in expenses in this year's budget. So it's got the administration department, code enforcement, police, streets, bridges, and canals, public works, and then we get into the contracted services, which is the sanitation services, the fire protection, and ocean rescue. Each one of these departments is broken out in the budget, in the package you have, in the one that'll go on the website first thing in the morning. By line, this is not a zero-based budget. It's a line item budget, and as you recall from your budget retreat, each department is broken out by specific and detailed service line, and also in the budget for the public's viewing will be justification sheets that each department has developed, which back up each individual department, and that's in the packet as well. Did want to call your attention to the bottom on the below the total operating general fund expenditures line. Transfer out to capital reserve fund canals. That is the annual appropriation the council has made, $10,000 for maintenance of the canals, $10,000 for maintenance of the incoming channel. Then you see a transfer out to capital reserve fund of $85,506. And that is what we were able to make a transfer this year to capital reserve fund based on revenues and expenses achieved by the town this year. Okay. Next. Yep, next page. Page 14. Okay, next one. This next page shows the permits and fees projected for the year. You can see a slight increase in building permits at $95,000. You can also see the other various fees that are collected in that particular department. The total permits and fees is trending slightly up from last year. And all these do make a difference, although it's only $6,000. You can notice over the last 4 years that has been on a steady increase. The other revenues shown there are the basic small items that the town receives for various and sundry matters such as interest, also rental income from this building and miscellaneous, and also budgeted as we have to do. There are no insurance proceeds budgeted thus far this year. So the total other revenues of $11,900 shows you that particular total, and then we'll go back to the summary page. Keep going back. Okay. To show the total budget this year of $5,703,804. That is the general fund. As you know, the town maintains other funds as well, and we're reporting on the cemetery fund and also the capital reserve fund tonight. I wanted to point out one matter to you on the administration department page on the you don't have that. Okay, on the administration department page, as we discussed with all the council at the budget retreat, there is a contingency line showing in the amount of $65,470. That is a change from the draft proposed budget. That amount was originally in the planning department budget to continue with the obligation with Code Right for the code rewrite project, which will continue on in the next year. Per the auditor's directive, that's been moved to the admin department and will come back in August with a request for a budget amendment to authorize that to be spent to pay that contract as his invoices come due during the year. So that was a continuing obligation, and it had to be shown like that in the budget. Okay. Cemetery. We'll turn to the cemetery fund. Again, this year is budgeted at the exact same amount of expenses and revenue as last year, and I want to make sure to be clear on it. The cemetery fund has its own undesignated fund balance. So the balance of the cemetery fund is, as of June 30th of last year, per the audit, is $46,908. You'll see at the bottom. The way the council has been funding this activity for the last 4 years, fiscal years, is that a draw from the undesignated fund balance has been made each year. This year it's proposed at $9,180 as projected revenue, and then we projected the sale of cemetery plots at $2,000 to make that a total revenue of $11,180. In that cemetery fund is funded, what you see there is a part-time seasonal worker who primarily works during the summer, beautifying the cemetery, and also works on other town projects as well. We have not funded that position, we have not activated that position yet this year. Still looking for a person for that position. You can see the salaries in the FICA, and then some beautification expense, and then the software license is what is used. We use in-house to maintain the cemetery map. So that is proposed cemetery fund budget for the year. Capital Reserve Fund, again, I had mentioned before, the $20,000 transfer in from the general fund into the Capital Reserve Fund to hold in reserve annually and build the $20,000, $10,000 for the canal maintenance, $10,000 for the income and channel maintenance. So that is what would be the revenue and expenses projected for the Capital Reserve Fund. On the left side at the bottom, you can see the total balance of the Capital Reserve Fund as of June 30th of last year was $50,767. With the filing of this budget, I'm proposing that a transfer be made to Capital Reserve for $85,506. And then, of course, of the total, $40,000 would be designated per your appropriation for the the balance of the designated amounts are for the canals and the channel. That would leave a balance of $96,273 to be used for other capital projects as the council deems appropriate. Also attached to your proposed budget is the strategic plan that you adopted. One of the items in the strategic plan calls for a street program, and this particular budget does again authorize the street program in the tune of $516,000. That is for projects that you would designate in July after you would hold a discretionary public hearing and upon a recommendation from the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. That committee does meet this month, and is presumably that committee, two of you serve on that committee, would make a recommendation to the full council in June, and the council could decide in July what to spend that $516,000 capital allocation on. So that, again, it's in there ahead of time, like you have done it for the last 3 or 4 years, so that you can make your own decision after adoption of this budget. There is a line in this budget of $300,000 for potential participation with Department of Transportation to remediate the stormwater flooding at NC 12 and intersection of East Dogwood. I have a little bit of a report for the council later in my report tonight, but that's only if the council chooses to participate in that. And also in the streets, bridges, and canals line, budget, there's $100,000 again for the Dogwood Trails Task Force if that body comes to you and recommends a physical survey of South Dogwood and East Dogwood, and you choose to actually fund that. And recall what that is actually surveying the outside boundaries of the street right-of-way, one up and one down, and it would locate every single tree, every single driveway, every single mailbox in the survey. So it would be a little bit more costly than actually a straight survey of a typical boundary survey. So that is the highlights. Those are the highlights of this particular proposed budget, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Again, it is a reduction of last year's budget of $1,144,349. I will say that is primarily because we are not funding, cash flowing the construction of the Tall Pine Bridge type project this year. So that is the main reason for the reduction. And again, all of the departments were reduced in their expenses, with the exception of the amount that's needed to pay the continuing contract obligation for Code Right next year. And again, I will say, as is required by law, it is balanced with no tax increase, and it does not call for a transfer from the unassigned fund balance. The unassigned fund balance right now is sitting at $3.2 million. It is, of course, there for emergency and immediate infrastructure rebuild in case there is a natural disaster. That is the target that the town has always maintained, somewhere in that neighborhood. It is above the actual resolution target that the town adopted of $1.75 million. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions, but Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that you set the public hearing for June the 6th.
Thank you. June the 7th.
Excuse me, June the 7th.
Thank you, Peter.
No, I mean, we covered it in depth at our hearing, so.
No, I think this is in line with what we talked about at the budget retreat, so,
With your draft budget.
yeah. So I guess I'd move that we
Well,
move this towards a,
Well, I'm just going to direct that we schedule a public meeting for June 7th to hear the budget and to decide on the budget. Thank you. Thanks, council. Thank you, Peter. No board reports tonight that I know of, old business, new business. This time I'll try again to open general public comment. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you. Mr. Bill Broadus.
Mr. Mayor, based on the fact that Mr. Newberry and Mr. McDowell are not here tonight, I will refer my comments until the later meeting.
Thank you. Sue, are you in the same category? Thank you. Norm St. Laurent. Good evening, Norm.
Good evening. I just have two short items. First of all, I'd like to thank yourself and Leo Holland for attending the Dare County Special Olympics this past Saturday. For those that haven't ever attended it, it's quite a show out there, the Special Olympians, and we had about 60 athletes this year. And thank you very much for coming. It's really appreciated. And the second item is another thank you. It's taken me 24 years since I first reported the pothole at the intersection of Hickory and East Dogwood. I came back from a 2-week vacation in Hawaii, and lo and behold, it was fixed. So I want to thank you for that as well.
Only 24 years.
24 years. I first reported it in 1992, but you guys did a good job on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Van Giesen. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening. This is a very brief or not completely thought-out idea, but it's regards Lake Dogwood down on Route 12 in East Dogwood. And I understand from talking to people who came to one of the recent town council meetings, there was some discussion about a rain garden in the median at the lower end of East Dogwood. I would suggest that if we're going to get into a planning with the state, that we consider, and also I understand that there was some consideration for purchasing some property for the purpose of building water retention, but that hasn't gone forward anywhere. But I think the idea that we're going to have to put the water somewhere is pretty obvious. We do have a lot of property in that area that I think is redundant, and that is that we have 2 lanes there on East Dogwood for about, I don't know, maybe 50% or 35 or 40% of East Dogwood is 2 lanes. There are no other entrances or exit roads to Southern Shores that have 2 separate lanes separated by a median. I don't think it's necessary. Some of the space, particularly on the lower end of the east end of East Dogwood near Route 12, could be used for a fairly extensive water retention area. It's a lot more property than the corner lot on East Dogwood and 12 that was being under consideration for purchase. And at any rate, I've just put it out there that, you know, maybe we don't need 2 roads for the entrance, and maybe some of that area could be used for water retention.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Karen Cranda. Good evening, Karen.
Hey, Karen.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I just want to go on record as saying I am very appreciative of the work you all have done for the roads, and I fully support maintaining and continuing on. And if it is the council's or the task force desire that North Dogwood is not to be done or improved, then I would really like to offer up Juniper Trail.
Thank you. At this time, I'll close public comment. Move on to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, the capital projects for this year are currently being finished up. All the capital projects that are underway, both for the spring and the ongoing 9-month bridge project, will be completed by the end of the month, hopefully sooner, but we have to say end of the month. The paving on the 2 streets should occur hopefully in the next 2 weeks. We're looking forward to that. That being Fox Grape and Beech Tree, the front portion of Beech Tree Lane. The bridge, of course, is getting railings on the east portion of it, and they will be attached to the top of the rail there that you see. And also there will be striping of a pedestrian bicycle area on the east side as well, that the town will do itself before it's actually opened for vehicular traffic. Did want to report to you, as I mentioned, I believe I mentioned it earlier, the Dare County Board of Commissioners did vote on Monday to allow Southern Shores early termination of its solid waste collection contract. Normally, we would have had to have given 6 months' notice, but we were able to, the board did allow us to get out effective June 30th. On July 1, the new company, Bay Disposal and Recycling, will take over as far as the actual solid waste pickup. It'll be the exact same schedule, exact same can routine, everything. So we look forward to having them come on board, and the budget is showing a significant savings because of that contract negotiation by staff, and I will certainly give the finance officer and the public works director credit for doing the due diligence in putting that together for us. The seasonal traffic effort for this year, we have been in contact with all the other agencies that typically coordinate the efforts to ease the effects of the traffic as they come in, as it comes into not only Southern Shores and Kitty Hawk, but of course a majority of it heading north. The main component of that is a manned intersection. Southern Shores, Kitty Hawk, Duck, and the State Highway Patrol will be manning the intersection this year on Saturdays and Sundays, and it will be 16 weekends, beginning, the first date beginning May the 21st, and the last date September 4th. Those are 16 weekends. Southern Shores is covering 4 of those, 2 of which are major holiday weekends. So it's been divided up. Again, Chief Johnson in the town of Kitty Hawk has been the go-to who has produced the schedule for this, and hopefully it'll work. There'll be 2 officers on duty on a Saturday this year, whereas last year there was just 1 officer out there, and it became ineffective with safety concerns. This year there'll be actually 2. The State Highway Patrol will be on standby in a more elevated role on Sunday. Hopefully that won't be a problem on Sunday, but again, that's what will happen on Sundays. Most of the emphasis will be placed on Saturdays. I did want to report to the council on staff's efforts on the flooding that continues to occur at NC-12 and East Dogwood Trail. I know that this has been discussed on several meetings, and of course with citizen complaints coming in. Since this flooding, we've noticed has been totally different than a year ago, was probably 5 to 6 months ago. We've had discussions with DOT ongoing, and recently, in the last 3 months, the staff has been meeting with DOT to try to get a feel for what DOT could do or would do at the intersection. And it became obvious that with our discussions with the division engineers, that DOT was not going to be able to do the fix-all project for that particular intersection alone, primarily due to funding. So that is why staff, with the council's discussions on this, staff has actually started to try to gather data and come up with some options for you to consider. Using the street repair, some monies that we're transferring into the street maintenance line of the current year's budget, we have engaged an engineer to look at the particular area and to do some topographical surveying there and to transmit his data and findings to the 2 hydraulic engineers that we met with on site as well from DOT. Included in that look will be a retention infiltration area. It will also include what's happening at the bottom of East Dogwood Trail. I will say that I'm not an engineer, but all the engineers that have been involved in our last 3 discussions and site visits all concur that most of the water that you see there standing in the hot spot, not at the bottom of East Dogwood, but just to the north of that, just to the south of that, is coming from the southern elevated areas of the road. We went out there at 6:30 this morning and actually filmed the flow of that storm water that was coming from the south to that particular area. All those engineers also concurred that the fastest way to get the most amount of water off of that area is for an infiltration area to be developed. That the water has to go somewhere. You can't just dig a French drain there. And they are primarily looking at trying to do an infiltration area somewhere where gravity would feed it, so that the town or DOT would not have to man a pump station. The bottom of East Dogwood is higher than that particular area where the main hotspot is, so you'd have to get the water to go uphill if we send it up that way somewhere. Again, I'm not an engineer, but there are engineers ongoing studying it. The timetable that we're trying to get back to the council on is somewhere around the 1st of June. The engineer that we have engaged would have his data produced and sent to the hydraulic engineers in Raleigh for them to hopefully draw some sort of conclusion that we could come back to the council by the end of June on that particular situation. Again, that is for a strategic, long-term fix. It's not a short-term fix, but we're looking at the long-term fix with that effort. And that is at the staff level. I know, Mr. Mayor, you've had discussions at the funding level that I'll defer to you on later, but this is what we've been doing in that particular regard. The other item that I want to report to you, the Southern Environmental Law Center has again contacted the town clerk and reported that they will be here on June the 1st or 2nd to follow up on their public records request for the town of Southern Shores, to go through our files and see what type of public records we have over the years that pertain to potential for a Mid-Currituck Bridge. As y'all know, Southern Environmental Law Center is a law firm in itself, but they were also one of the chief litigants in the Bonner Bridge permit appeal and ongoing litigation that held the bridge up. So I did want to report to you on that. We're seeing movement again from Southern Environmental Law Center. Other item to report to you are the request for qualification sheets that town staff put out at the town council's direction to solicit a contract for a town engineer. They are all due on May the 9th, which is next week. So after that, the staff will be reviewing them and then communicating with the council. I also wanted to report to you at the same day of the June council meeting, you may know that is a special election day, and it'll be a congressional primary. There will be an election for this district's congressman, and also an election for an associate Supreme Court justice for North Carolina. So there will be voting in this building occurring down the hall in the smaller conference room. We're going to have about a 2-hour overlap of crowd come in for this meeting and potentially voting. But we will reserve the parking spaces for the meeting in the parking lot. It's going to be tight, but it just couldn't be helped. All this was piled on us, and the Board of Elections could not move it in time, get clearance to move the election in time. And this being your budget public hearing, we kept the meeting as is. So there will be, starting about 5 o'clock that day, as people come in for your meeting at 5:30, there'll be 2 more hours of voting going on down the hall. I don't know that it'll be that popular of a voting day, but we'll see. I did also want to report to you on the town property that's contiguous to the town hall complex, or part of the town hall complex now, Southern Skyline Drive. Staff, we've cleaned out the dwelling in the property next door, and we're basically reviewing all options for it. We're getting a contractor to look at that particular property, as well as trying to explore the options, and hopefully we'll have a recommendation to council shortly on that. Did want to announce that the mayor has canceled the planning committee meeting for the month, so that will not occur. But I did want to comment to you on May the 19th of this month at 2 p.m., the last capital improvement planning committee meeting of the year will occur, and it will be at that particular meeting that staff will and the citizen reps will urge the committee, encourage the committee to actually make a decision on prioritizing what capital needs in the form of street improvements for the year should be made in the form of a recommendation to the council at the June meeting. I did want to clarify, I know last meeting there was a question or comment during the public forum about what makes up that committee. Again, your rules or procedure are clear. There are only 2 members on the committee, and those are 2 council members. There are 2 citizen advisors, representatives, and also staff, and none of them vote. It's just the 2 council members make that decision. It can be done any way y'all want to make it, either by consensus or voting. But whatever comes out of that committee in the form of a recommendation is the only decision that's made. There have been no decisions made by that committee this year yet. So this would be the meeting that the committee would hopefully make a recommendation to the council at the June meeting so that council can consider that at its July meeting for adoption for the year, if any way it chooses to or not. That's the report I have, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. Be glad to try to answer any questions.
Thank you, Peter. Council?
I don't have any question.
I had one question. The solid waste contract, how much were we able to save? Because I don't know if everybody knows.
Okay, what's happened is the cost for this year have increased approximately $35,000. So that means we're going to have a budget amendment come before you next meeting to cover that approximate 35, a little bit more than that. And that is because of the cost that the county incurred, which is total pass-through to the town, and all this was unexpected. We started to notice that each quarter increasing. So once it got to the 3rd quarter and there was no relief in sight, that's when we hit the action button to try to say we got to stop the bleeding. So we're going to end up being about somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 in the hole this year that we've got to cover. If you take that figure and add on to our current year's budget, and trend that means we would have had to budget that same amount this year plus the 35 for next year. The lowest bid, qualified bid we got in would save us not only the 35 to 40 for this year, but also another 35 to 40. So it's basically around $70,000 that we're saving by going to a new carrier.
Okay, thank you for your hard work. I know that's been a lot to get there, and you've gone back and forth. You've spoken to us several times, but I want to make sure everybody knows that.
Well, I believe one of the changes is that county was charging us by the hour, where Bay will charge us by the household.
That's correct.
No, it won't be an hourly fee.
That's right. We got a contract amount per house per month, and the commercial is a set amount per month. Town of Southern Shores has the least amount of commercial tonnage as any of the municipalities here. So that made the difference. It's a per household figure, and we'll be seeking the multi-year contract. A 5-year contract is what we'll be seeking with CPI increases. They will insist on that. But other than that, we look forward to a good relationship with them.
So in short, we'll be able to save money this year, and then we'll have extra that we, in a way that we're saving that we can't really apply it to this current year.
That's
but we're able
correct.
to kind of make up some of that difference.
That is
what I'm,
yes,
where I'm
sir.
going with it.
That's exactly right.
But even if you only save $50,000 a year for the next
Yeah.
5 years, you
It's
saved
great.
$250,000.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I think is pretty significant. And I think you and staff, Peter, are to be commended for that.
Thank you.
I've been following this pretty closely because it's, the way the county bills us, obviously, was strictly a straight shot through to us on an hourly basis. And we had no control at all over that. At least by going by individual units, we know we only got so many homes in Southern Shores. If they bill us some more than that, we'll pick up on it pretty quick. Thank you, Peter.
I did need to follow up on something that I left off. The current recycling contractor for the town has notified us that it is not going to be able to do the large item pickup at the same current contract rate that it has performed over the last 3 years. For some reason, we've had an increase in tonnage during our large item pickup in the fall and in the spring. a huge increase. And we met with them, and they're going to come up with some more pricing on the large item pickup. So right now, staff's working with them and possibly some other particular vendors to do the large item pickups within the current budget. So I did want to notify council of that. That has been a concern that popped up right after the latest large item pickup. There were several house cleanings. So anyway, it was a lot of tonnage that I didn't see it out there, but they picked it up, so.
Yeah, the number was pretty staggering, 30,000 pounds or something.
35 tons.
35 tons of household goods, apparently. I just have a couple things. Peter addressed the engineering and the technical aspects of this issue at the intersection of Highway 12, but actually it's an issue that goes a little bit south of the intersection, and we were recognizing that and acknowledging that. Now we're finding the primary problem is not East Dogwood. The water flow is coming from the direction of Dolphin and a little north of Dolphin and flowing back to the low spot there just south of Dogwood Trail. And so that's what's causing the primary cause of our flooding there. East Dogwood is contributing almost insignificant amount, so you get close to 2 inches of rainfall. And we've actually gone out there and measured that too, watching the water flow and see when they finally come together at the low point. I had some notes I wanted to share with you about that. As Peter said, we've been working with the NCDOT staff for a number of months now, seeking possible solutions, and their cooperation has been exceptional. They've not only have I met with our district engineer, I've also met with a gentleman named Walter Gray, who's the Chief Deputy Secretary to Secretary Tennyson. He spent about 2 hours with me and Malcolm Fearing, who's our district representative to the board at the Department of Transportation. Malcolm has been able to arrange a number of meetings for me with people who could make things happen for us. It's been very encouraging. Having the ultimate responsibility for the road conditions, NCDOT is most anxious to partner with the town and hopes that all available resources can be pooled for a long-term solution that benefits all. We've been encouraged by the feedback we received from Senator Cook and Representative Tynes' offices in possibly helping to defray at least a portion of the cost with state dollars. And I have no dollar commitment in as far as the amount's concerned, but I do have a very positive thumbs up. We're going to help you from both those sources. So I'm optimistic there will be some funding available for us. I think we all recognize the public safety implications. They are the primary driver in my efforts to move as quickly as possible in resolving this problem. Public safety is the overriding concern here, and I think we all know that. Based on the ongoing conversations with the NCDOT engineers, I do believe there's a permanent workable solution which will allow for the most standing water to be removed, as Peter said a minute ago, in the quickest amount of time. It's not going to be magic, but it will take the water away. I see us moving forward as quickly as approval by this town and the state, the funding, the engineering, the design, and the vacation traffic will allow us to do so. Just ballparking this in conversations with our district engineer, and he wouldn't let me pin him down, but he said, depending on the design elements, how quickly they fall into place, and the contracting and so forth, he would hope to be able to have addressed this by Thanksgiving of this year, to be able to put it behind us. And that may be a pie in the sky, but I'm inclined to believe he's going to put forth a good effort. In direct response to Mr. Van Giesen's comment, I appreciate where you're coming from. And I thought the same thing that you thought, that all the problems were coming from East Dogwood. But in fact, when you go out there, during a storm event like we had last night and this morning, we had almost 2 inches of rain. And there was about 4 inches of rain at the entrance to both east and westbound lane of East Dogwood. But south of that, there was a foot of water or more along that where the bike path cuts through there, or the multi-use path. And we have confirmed the fact that the water is coming from the south of that low point and not from the Dogwood point. We've done made some remedial efforts on Dogwood Trail, and they're working to some degree. We're slowing down and reducing the volume. It's hitting the corner. We'll still have some come down there, but it's not going to be. It goes away normally in 4 to 6 hours, or it's drive through. what's the word I want to use here? Words. What's the phrase? Drive-throughable within 4 to 6 hours, even after a heavy storm event. I think that covers what I wanted to say, except to add that I feel very, I'm very proud that we have had the work by staff we've had over the past year, and especially the last 6 months with things like cost savings with our budget. You look at our budget from last year to this year with $1 million lower, and no increased taxes and no increased cost to the citizens of our town. I think it's a pretty significant achievement. And I'm not tooting my horn. I'm just simply saying that I think that staff's done a good job, and I appreciate that. Leo?
I just got a couple of things. I want to clarify a couple of comments that were made at the April 19th meeting regarding the acquisition of number 7 Skyline Drive. There were 2 open meetings where that project was discussed, and directing the various people to acquire it. I'm not going to read all the details. The minutes are sitting out there. If you want to go read all the detail, there was one on the 5th of May. That's where the town manager was directed to make an offer in the amount of $200,000 to purchase the property. Then also there was a meeting then scheduled from that on the 6th of May where there was a budget amendment directed there to make the $200,000 available. Yes, there was a closed session meeting as part of that, and that was to discuss the possibility of establishing a position to be taken by the town and potentially negotiating a price and terms with the owner of the property. So that part, it was open. There were people at both those meetings, so that clarifies that. One other was indicated that the town of Kitty Hawk publishes the salaries of all their staff on their website. They do not do that. What they publish is their classification plan and salary scale. That's what they had for fiscal year 2015-2016, where you had a grade, the position, and minimum and maximum. That's what I found when I went out on the website. So that's my point on that. The other one is on the budget. I'd like to thank staff for what they've done. It was a long one, started way back in February. It is a very good budget. I know some of you will be wanting to go out and look at it come tomorrow morning. We'll start trying to analyze it, which is fine. You need to, but I want to encourage you, if you get a question on a particular item in the budget, because there's a lot of data in there, and you don't understand what a number is coming from, I encourage you, highly encourage you, to contact Peter or Bonnie so they can explain it to you, or if you don't want to do it by telephone, you can come by or call them, make an appointment, come by, and they'll go through the whole budget with you. But I don't want anybody to start making comments or decisions without first getting the rest of the story from the people that prepared it. So that's my comments.
Thank you, Leo. Chris?
I don't have much, but I was fortunate enough to attend the historic flat top tour with my daughter, and I wasn't able to go to every flat top, but it was a really great event. There was a lot of people. I mean, it was very, very crowded. It was really encouraging. I hadn't been through a lot of the homes. We have a really great resource, a really unique resource here in Southern Shores that doesn't exist anywhere else in the Outer Banks. I mean, this is a really unique style of architecture, and we're fortunate to have it. But I would encourage all of you. There's a Facebook page for the flat tops, and I encourage a lot of you guys to pay attention to that. Next year when this comes about, go for the walk down the road, take a look at it. Great sense of community, and it was just a lot of fun. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Before I ask our town attorney for his comments, I just have one thing I want to add. I meant to mention sooner. For those of you who haven't attended the Special Olympics here, they had this past Saturday. We've had it for 5 years here now, and it's an unbelievable event. You see these kids out there who are definitely challenged, kids and adults who are uniquely challenged, performing and working and putting so much effort and so much energy and so much enthusiasm into what they're doing. It brings tears to your eyes, but it's worth going if you if you have a chance to do that. It's really worthwhile. Mr. Town Attorney.
I do not want to get in the way of the adjournment of the meeting. I don't have anything to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Need a motion to adjourn, council?
So moved.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.